while they were constantly coming at Kyrie Irving, this was going on in the background. This individual's name is Matthew Mahrer. Now, this story is very interesting because of the pretty much the little details surrounding it. So this person's name is Matthew Mahrer, and he threatened to commit a massive attack on a New York City synagogue, and I think a couple of them, not just one, but a few of them. Now, get this. This man is a part of that community. He's one of them folks, and he is a descendant of a Holocaust survivor. Someone who was still alive from the Holocaust, he is related to. Now, you got to really think about this for a second. This is a person who is a part of them folks, that community. He tried to attack their place of worship because that's where they go to. That's where they go to pray and to worship, is at a synagogue. And he is the descendant of a Holocaust survivor. Like, when you think and you put all those three together, would that be self-hate, or would that be them folks on them folks crime? Because I have questions. I have several questions that need answering. And I haven't even gotten to the article yet. So just based off of that, which we know so far, I can only imagine what the little, well, not even a little, but the other major details are going to be. But we're going to find out now. This was posted on the New York Post, November 20th, 2022. One of two men, so there's another one, accused of plotting to attack New York City synagogues is part of that community. And the grandson of a Holocaust survivor, his attorney claimed in court Saturday. Matthew Mahrer, age 22. Again, look at these age ranges, these 18 to 22. I keep telling y'all, we're noticing a pattern. Was ordered held on $150,000 bail at his arraignment in Manhattan criminal court on charges of criminal possession of a weapon, though his lawyer asked that he be released on his own recognizance. There are a lot of questions here, defense attorney Brandon Frasant said of Mahrer, who has allegedly been diagnosed with autism, bipolar disorder, anxiety, and ADHD. So now they're about to hit the mental illness route. At least in this one, they actually say what he was diagnosed with and just flat out saying he had a mental illness. My client is of Jewish heritage. He resides with his parents, and his grandfather is actually a 93-year-old Holocaust survivor. And my client is his part-time caretaker. Now, you got to question yourself here. This guy he's Jewish. He is the descendant of a Holocaust survivor, and he threatened to commit attacks against a synagogue. And now we learn he's the caretaker of that same Holocaust survivor who's 93. He doesn't need to be his caretaker. When you put it all into perspective, it makes you wonder why he hasn't tried to plot to take out his own grandfather, seeing as how he was in closer proximity to him than he was at these synagogues. Mahrer and pal Christopher Brown were busted Friday on the Long Island Railroad, with Brown carrying weapons and a Nazi armband, according to police sources. Cops seized a loaded handgun with an extended magazine and a bulletproof vest from Maher's Upper West Side apartment that he and a buddy allegedly planned to use in a synagogue attack. Now, get this. Have y'all ever noticed that whenever there's about to be some kind of a synagogue attack, it's usually always PC men that are the ones doing it, but they have all this smoke for black men if we say something that they don't agree with? Remember, it was a PC man a few years ago who attacked the synagogue. I forgot where it was. I want to say it was in PA, because I don't think it was in New York. He actually went in there and shot it up, and some people died. They ended up arresting him and throwing him in jail. Of course, he's still in jail right now because people did die. But you rarely, if you ever, hear about it anymore. So much, in fact, I forgot the guy's name. I forgot how he looked, but I do remember the story. Those who live in PA, more so maybe the Philly area, around that region, because I believe that's where it happened, that will definitely know what that story is all about. And it's not even a decade old. It probably happened like back in 2015 or 2014, somewhere around that region. I knew it was pre-Wovid for sure, but it happened around that time period, and I remember exactly what that was all about. Let me go ahead and continue. Maher's defense attorney Brandon Frasant argued that his client has no criminal history and said he's of Jewish heritage. But Mahrer had no criminal record and his parents had cooperated with cops. His attorney said the accused had spent time in homeless shelters before moving in with his parents about a year ago, the attorney added. So now the attorney's trying to add on this extra stuff to try to make it seem like he was not doing what basically the mental incapacities that he has is causing him to do this. They're throwing in the sob stories about him not having a real family and him living in home shelters and him doing all the stuff that he is doing. I don't think that should hold up. I really don't, because if it can't work with us, it shouldn't work with them. Based on that, Judge, my client should not be implicated in anything involving hatred towards his own people and his own religion. But he did, though. He plotted. Him and his friend plotted to go and attack synagogues, which is where his people would be at, where he would be at. He didn't plot to go pull a Dylan Roof and go mess with a Baptist or a Methodist church where a lot of black people would be at. He went and plotted to go mess up a synagogue where his people would be at. But see, the thing is, his attorney is trying to avoid doing the white on white crime and the J on J crime. That's what he's trying to avoid. That's knocking two birds with one stone right there. Assistant District Attorney Emilio Hernandez said Mahrer and Brown traveled to Pennsylvania. Now, didn't I just talk about the other guy was in Pennsylvania when he did it? Now, I don't know where that guy was from. I don't know if he was from PA or if he was traveling to PA. But when he did his, it was definitely in PA. Now, look at this. These two went to Pennsylvania. They left New York and went to PA. It said they traveled to PA together and brought the gun with intent to use it in an attack at a synagogue. So they traveled to another state to buy the gun to come back to New York to do what they did. The FBI and NYPD had been on the trail of Mahrer and Brown, a diagnosed schizophrenic who recently told family members that he wanted to go to New York and buy a gun, sources said. The parents of this defendant alerted police officers to the existence of a firearm within the backpack of the defendant inside the defendant's apartment. Well, it's a good thing that his parents actually said something. Because if they didn't, or they were unaware, like genuinely unaware, he would have carried out this attack, him and his friend. Prosecutors claimed the pair were aware that police were looking for them and decided to leave the firearm in the backpack in the apartment. Maher's parents were in the gallery for the arraignment. As the defense attorney spoke of her son, her husband wrapped his arm around her shoulder. He is not what they're saying he is, his mom told the Post outside the court. His father declined to comment. Mahrer is due back in court on Wednesday. Brown, age 21, is charged with making terroristic threats, aggravated harassment, and criminal possession of a weapon. The NYPD said he was not arraigned Saturday. I don't know why, considering he has all these charges, but okay. Yeah. Let's see if the ADL is going to cover this story, or are they going to still harp on Kyrie Irving for this checklist for him posting a link? Because apparently posting a link on Twitter is way worse and way more dangerous than someone threatening to go commit a domestic terrorist attack at a synagogue. Like I said, what makes this story interesting is that this individual that you see on your screen is part of that community himself, then wanted to go attack the place where most of them will congregate. And he's he's kin of a Holocaust survivor he's the primary, well, as far as we know, he is a caretaker of. That's some otherworldly-ish right there when you put it all into perspective. Now, I don't think that this story is going to gain any legs like that. For most of you, this might be the first time you are aware and hearing of the story. I wouldn't have known this story existed unless one of my followers on Twitter didn't tag me in the story. I wouldn't have never known. Because, apparently mainstream media is wrapped up in talking about other things, but they conveniently will leave something like this out. Now, of course, this might have made local news, but it didn't make national news. The only way this would have made national news is if he actually committed the act. But I truly believe that something like this should make national news because of what could have happened and to put him on blast. But they're not going to do that. They're going to still give him a level of protection. Operation Protect the White Boy in full effect. And then you got his lawyer up there trying to make a claim because he has all this going on. He has no criminal record, that he shouldn't be locked up. The hell he shouldn't. He's exactly where he needs to be. As a matter of fact, I believe his bond is way too low, $150,000. It should have been way higher than that, or give him no bond. And usually they give people no bond to those who are flight risk. Anybody who wants to commit something like this, in my opinion, is a flight risk, which is why he should have not gotten a bond. Let his ass stay right there until his next court appearance in a couple of days. And let that be that. But we know how this song and dance plays itself out every single time. Well, thanks to GBS, and that's a Great Black Shark for those of you who don't know. He posted this on his community tab. Look at this. They could not wait. Kathy Hochul could not wait. It's his New York governor signs anti-hate crime bill that days after synagogue attack foiled. Law mandates hate crime prevention training, statewide tolerance campaign. Hochul, no young Jewish boy should ever have to look over his shoulder as he's walking to a yeshiva. They claim they can't do anything specifically for black people, in particular, black Americans. And then this happens instantly. Even when a lot of these other groups don't even ask for it, these politicians jump swiftly into action. A lot of people say that they ask for things. No. Y'all have to go with me on this one. A lot of times these other groups don't even ask for anything. These politicians will jump into actions and do it regardless, even if they didn't ask. Remember, I just did a video talking about London Breed out there in San Francisco. Do you think that a good chunk of the people in Hall T in that community was asking for that, or did they just do it? And even if they hint at it, these politicians will jump into action and not only do what is asked of them to do, but they'll overextend and go above and beyond, go the distance, and do way more than what was asked. But when it's us, oh, we need to really look into this. We need to do a study. We need to do this and we need to do that. And when we call it out, then we're seen as, oh, anti this and anti that, or we're hating and so on and so forth. No, we're just pointing out the obvious, the blatantly obvious, if you ask me. You want to know what else I find out to be interesting about this? Peyton Gendron committed a hate crime against black people in Buffalo, New York, the same Buffalo, New York in which Kathy Hochul is still governor for, because last I checked, Buffalo is in the state of New York and governors govern an entire state, not just a sector of it. And in that moment, instead of them producing a anti-hate crime bill for black people, they managed to slip something in there for people of the J community, simply because Peyton Gendron mentioned them in his manifesto. Keep in mind, none of them were casualties of his attack. It was black people. But because he mentioned them in his manifesto, they bypassed the black people that he mentioned in his manifesto, went straight to them, bypassed all the black people that were murdered and went straight to them, even though none of them were murdered. After all, let's not forget, in the video, in the stream that he was doing while he was doing it, he came across a PC man who, for all we know, let's hypothetically say, could have been part of that community. And he did not do anything to him. He said, oh, I'm not coming after you. But they managed to find a way to slip something in there for them, even though they were not casualties. Oh, I didn't forget that. This is just your friendly reminder in case you did.